KBSC Apache Junction and K241BQ Fort McDowell.
Phoenix's funny stations.
It's a comedy calamity with the Wild Jokers starting right now. So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And good morning and welcome to the Wild Jokers.
I just fell out of my chair.
I'm Len. That's Brad right there. Good morning. Happy Saturday to you.
Holy moly, dude. I'm turning you down.
Why are you? Oh, okay, yeah, he's also the board op engineer as well. Well, hey, I'm action-packed this morning. It is the weekend.
Somebody had their Wheaties.
It's finally Saturday, and we're going to get to catch up. We have an action-packed show. You know, Shadoe Stevens, the one, the only, who actually was an innovator in comedy radio. It was rock and roll radio, but he was on the comedic side with his writing. From Los Angeles, he's also is the voice of Craig Ferguson.
He's the voice of Craig Ferguson's show.
He's the MC.
Craig's his own voice.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
There's no puppeteering going on.
Right. Well, you know, he's got that robot guy on there, Jeff. You know.
Right.
And so, you know, Jeff is kind of a puppet, but, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of a Ferguson fan, so I dig the show. It's actually pretty cool.
Well, yeah, we caught up with him earlier in the week. We were hoping to actually catch up with Rick Dees. We're talking to his people, and if he does call in, we'll be fortunate to be graced by his appearance.
We had our people call his people, and now waiting for his people to call our people back.
Yeah, they're playing ping pong, back, forth. Our good friend Tony from ComedySchools.com, of course, will be joining us, as well as
Tony,
the godfather of comedy here in Phoenix, Arizona, as I like to call him, and of course Amy Blackwell, who was actually one of our big winners at Cactus Jack's in Ahwatukee for one of our Wild Joker nights.
She's hilarious.
Oh, totally.
She really is funny.
Totally. It's been a lot of fun at Cactus Jack's, and of course, What the Hell Bar and Grill in East Mesa. The Wild Joker nights have been a success, and if you have a bar, nightclub, any place you would like to hang out and have a comedy night, contact us here, the Wild Jokers, at 602-303-5869. Once again, that's 602-303-5869, and we can set up a comedy night for you, a Wild Joker night.
Yeah, one of your private parties, events, corporate events, whatever. We'll
make
talent and make you laugh.
And then that's one other thing about the caliber of this. And when we chat with Amy, and Tony can paint the picture as well. These are national comedians as well. These are just not the local speakeasy guys that are just starting out. These are groomed, worked comedians.
Yeah, you know, I was going to ask you, Len.
And I'm not talking about groomed like shaving.
You mean like manscaped?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking manscaping. No.
Do you think that female comedians have to work harder? And I mean this like in a serious.
In the past, perhaps,
even
but
today,
not as much today.
You know what? I kind of do. I kind of feel like they have to work a little harder to be funny, not because they're not funny. I think because for whatever reason, there's still this stigma out there that men are funnier. I don't know why, but when you think about it, when you go on any comedy channel, what percentage do you think are men versus women?
It's probably 2-to-1 ratio. I think
of men versus women.
Yeah, 2-to-1 or so.
So that's why to me it just seems like women have to work harder. So the ones that really make it tend to be really funny.
And that's the one thing we're going to be catching up with Tony from ComedySchools.com. But hey, we have a new friend of the show, a new partner, somebody that we're going to be working with all the way down in Casa Grande. It's Casa Grande Jewelry and Pawn, which they have an array of from different jewelry, firearms, power tools.
Sweet.
I walked through their shop and everything.
Power tools.
And hey, Casa Grande wants to laugh too. We're actually going to be hooking up with them and actually doing some appearances and some different shows and everything. Catch up with them at 520-836-7774. Once again, that's 836. I can't read right now. 7774. That's 1326 North Pinal Road in Casa Grande.
What's it called again?
Once again, that is Casa Grande Jewelry and Pawn.
Casa Grande Jewelry and Pawn. Are they paying us by the word?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Well, thanks to our new sponsor, and who's just walked into the door, yet the godfather of comedy here in Phoenix, Arizona. Tony.
How'd we get here? I have no idea. I want you to come out to the What the Hell Bar, Tempe Center for the Arts. But if on your way there, if anybody I know should be struck by lightning or hung, then the show might go short. I forgive everything. This on the day of my daughter's wedding. People are turning off as you're...
You don't even wear a ring. You can't even have the ring kissed.
I have a ring.
Yeah, he's got a ring.
Okay,
Yeah,
he's got the ring. I was going to say, better have the ring
May
on.
your firstborn be masculine.
I haven't told you where the ring is. That's all.
That's a whole nother story. Wow.
So, Tony, how's things going in the comedy world?
No.
Because you are the mentor of the show, and we were talking about you before you walked in the door about the comedy school and whatnot, but also just the appearances at the Tempe Center of the Arts, grooming our talent to go on out there. What's the beat on the street? You got the Montreal Festival. I know you want to talk about.
Yeah, we just did that. We just did a showcase for the Just for Laughs Montreal Comedy Festival. We did that. We're waiting to hear word on. I mean, that was, in a sense, it wasn't a contest. It was a showcase, and that was the first round. They know that there's all these vibrant comedy scenes throughout the country that they can't always get to, and they're kind enough to allow us to put. This is the second time that we put together a showcase for them. It'd be similar if I was a producer in Los Angeles and I had some comics I wanted them to see. This goes on a lot in Los Angeles, where an independent producer will approach a television show, say, I'd like to put together a showcase for you, and they put together a group of comics, and it can be very helpful to the talent coordinator and producer. So we're excited about that. But the local comedy scene, and there is a local comedy scene, and when I came here, when I started the workshop 12 years ago, there was no local comedy scene. It's now probably one of the biggest in the country, is growing, and it's vibrant and it's contentious. But I think the good news, and it's mostly good news for the entire, for anyone who enjoys stand-up comedy, and who doesn't,
Who doesn't like to laugh?
Children, we're all going to enjoy stand-up comedy. And for anyone who is a stand-up comic or wants to be a comic, is there are so many great places to work. A guy named Rick Bronson, who's a really great guy, is and was a stand-up comic himself and a magician, and owns a huge club in Canada and a huge club in Minnesota, is opening up a club in North Scottsdale. There's rumors, there's a sign at Scottsdale and Shade. It says Laugh Factory. So the assumption is that Jamie, who's expanding and franchising the Laugh Factory off of Sunset, will be coming here. So there's already 5-6 places doing comedy on a weekend in the greater Phoenix area that are professional, that people could go to and have a good time, along with the dozens of through the week shows, some of which we produce with you guys. So it's a great time to be a comic.
Well, I remember the Laugh Factory. I remember it was on Channel 11 in Los Angeles when it was KTTV. There used to be a live show from the Laugh Factory. How long has that entity been around in Hollywood?
I tell you,
remember when it started? Because for the 80s, I remember it was sitting there, and I remember they used to film a television show, and what a concept.
But I know that in 1985, because I lived around the corner, I lived on Hollywood and Curson, which is only interesting to you and I.
Yeah, right. Everyone's going weird.
We're reminiscing.
Yeah, but I lived on Hollywood Boulevard, a catty-corner from Orson Welles, which I didn't know till he died. And then I went, oh, wow, Orson Welles.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that he opened the place, he had this huge sign, and my very first open mic night ever was in December of 1985 on a Monday night at the Laugh Factory. And there were 3 people in the room. A buddy of mine I brought, a drunk, and the girl who ran the room, and she asked me to come back, and I thought it was because I was funny. Yeah. If you don't know why I said what, people listening, because these guys are making hand signals now that I don't understand. I don't know if they're supposed to
He's telling me to steal third base.
I'm like the third base coach.
You're going to advertise tampons and hand grenades in a minute.
No, when I do that, Tony, I wanted him to pull my finger. That's the thing. I just need a release.
Don't we all? Don't we all? We're not getting it in this room. Anyway, so he's been around since the early 80s, and it was a small club, and then there was a deli next door, and it shut down, and he bought that out, and it's one of the premier clubs in the country now. And if he's coming here too, then that's great. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places that the public has to choose from, along with some of the stuff that we're doing. I don't know if we're ready to announce some of the weekend stuff we got coming up.
We can. We have not, and I would actually be pleased if you would like to announce it, if you would like.
I'll announce it to the best that I can.
That works. I'll help you out.
Okay, all right. So starting May 31st, there will be a regular Saturday night show at the Comedy Cellar at Vito's Restaurant in Mesa, Arizona. First off, I ate at Vito's long before I ever thought about putting a comedy show there, and the food is fantastic, and it's not overpriced. And those are things that I know you guys look for when we're looking for a place to produce a show.
Well, you want people to come out and have fun and be able to afford it and not go home feeling like they got mugged.
And also quality food as well.
That's the best part.
Portions look really good.
I mean, it's a home run, and they have cannolis.
And it's a warm room.
If you say cannoli, you have to say the quote: "Leave the gun, take the cannoli."
That's funny.
That's right. I knew you were going there.
So, starting May 31st, in conjunction with you guys, we'll be booking a regular Saturday night show at the Comedy Cellar. This is going to be the coolest place in town to see comedy. Sometimes you go to see a comedy show, and it's a huge room, and you're stuck way in the back, and it's hard for you to get good service. Sometimes you go and see a place, and it's funky. As you guys know, like what we do at Tempe Center of the Arts, which you guys are
great service, great room, good sightlines, great shows. It's a small, hot little club downstairs in an Italian restaurant. You're not going to be able to get closer to a New York club anywhere.
And that's what I was going to say. This reminds me of a vibe of a New York show.
Of a New York comedy show.
Yep.
And, tickets will, there'll be 2 ticket packages. One I think will be like around $10. Don't quote me in case it's different. And there'll also be a dinner package. And we think this is going to be the hot place to see. And we're going to be bringing comics in from outside of Arizona, but we have some of the best comics in the country live in Arizona, and they're going to be showcased there. And when you come to see this show, you will have a great, great night of food, drink, and entertainment. I guarantee you.
Oh, here we go.
I love it. A perfect date night, too,
Right.
if you think about it.
Sure.
I mean, you get the meal, you get a little
Absolutely.
entertainment,
Right.
have a nice evening, couple toddies, go home.
Yeah, and like Tony said, there's not a bad seat in the house.
There's not.
I mean, it's a really cool room.
And
I mean,
it's
you
the
feel
vibe,
like
too.
you jump back, 40 years ago, and when things used to be different, people used to dress up to go out.
And that's
stuff.
the thing.
It's
You
really
want to put a
got that
sport
feel.
coat on. You don't have to.
No,
but
it's
I
kind of
would
cool,
like
though.
that,
It's that
yeah.
kind of spot,
Yeah.
though. Like, you could definitely feel comfortable, rolling in a sport coat and
Dress up a
you know,
little bit. You
right.
don't have to be so casual.
That's right.
Well, that's kind of a
Just
nice
make
thing.
sure you kiss the ring when you walk in.
Kiss the ring.
Tony, let me ask you, when it comes to the comedy scene, the growth and the expansion here in Phoenix, Arizona has been quite something. For me to see, 6, 7 just normal comedy clubs being in, a 40, 45-mile radius. I don't remember L.A. ever being like that.
Which doesn't include the Tempe Center for the Arts, where we do great shows every Friday at 7:30. Tickets as low as $8 with promo code.
Here's the pitch.
Wow.
Well,
He's relentless.
this is like a T-ball game. I just set
Free.
that one up.
I'm sold out for this Friday. For this Friday, I am sold out. We are sold out, and we sell tickets.
We heard that about you.
Yeah, you know what? It's what somebody said to Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead, one time. They go, "You never sold out." He goes, "It's not like we haven't tried."
But the growth of the market, though.
Yes.
Are we here in Phoenix, Arizona, now bigger than L.A. when it comes to comedy?
I wouldn't want to say that. I would, because I can't say it with certainty. It probably does feel like it. I mean, in Los Angeles, of course, you've got the Melrose Improv, and then you've got the Comedy Store, and you've got the Laugh Factory, and the Comedy Imagine. So it's easier to get to our shows than it is to get to
There
a
you
show in
go.
Los
You're
Angeles.
right.
Because even though I lived around the corner from the Laugh Factory, I remember going to the Laugh Factory one night, and I lived walking distance. I lived 1.5 miles. Walking distance then, not now. But I drove. I drove because I had a date, and she was wearing high heels and nothing else. No, and
Very nice.
no.
My favorite ensemble.
I had to do that.
Yeah, right.
And I couldn't find a parking spot. I actually drove back to my house 1.5 miles away and grabbed a cab. And that's L.A.
Right.
That's L.A. But here...
You don't have that problem here.
Yeah, look...
We're pretty spread out.
in Tempe or in Mesa, and I apologize. There's a lot of great places to see shows. I think that what we do together, what I do, is where you're going to see the best shows for the best prices. You guys know my philosophy that a show is all about the audience. It's not about the comics. It's not about I want the comics to do well. It's about the audience. And now, if you live in Mesa, you don't have to drive all the way in. You're going to be able to see a great show. If you live in Tempe or Scottsdale, you can see our show. You could certainly come from Gilbert and see one of our shows, or come from Glendale and see one of our shows. But it is a big town. Now, hopefully, this will last a long time. We could supernova out. There could be so many shows no one goes anymore.
True, over expansion.
Well, you know what I'll tell you what
I've.
I've noticed. It's starting to happen with music concerts a little more, but with comedy, it's happening faster. We used to be like the stop on the way to L.A. We're starting to get bigger names on Friday and Saturday night here that we didn't used to get, and I think that says a lot for what our market's doing. You know what I mean? And there's some of the music concerts are more notorious for that, showing up on a Wednesday night and playing L.A. on Saturday. But I think these comedians are starting to realize, come to Phoenix for a weekend and you're going to score. I mean, Ron White was just here on a weekend.
Well, right.
Chelsea
But
Handler was here on a weekend.
Their booking people have gotten smart. What they've been doing is this, and I've noticed this in a lot of the tour dates, is they're booking Phoenix and Vegas on the same weekend.
There you go.
Friday, Saturday, or flip-flop, depending which location. And the following weekend, they'll go to Los Angeles.
Right.
They'll
It used to be we were on a stop. We were stopping the way to L.A. Not so much
the Bay
anymore.
Area is starting to get hurt a little bit
Right.
because they go to the Bay Area and then come to Los Angeles
There
for the
you
next
go.
weekend. Is what they've been doing.
You know the great thing about being a big name that lives in Los Angeles and comes and does a show in Phoenix, and I've heard this sell before, where they go, we're going to bring you into one of the larger venues, one of the concert halls, and they say, we're going to bring you into one of the larger venues. You're going to have the same amount of people you'd have over 4 nights, and you'll be home in time to watch the 11 o'clock news because they can finish up they can finish their show at one of the larger venues, one of the big venues, one of the casinos, hop in the charter jet and be at Van Nuys Airport at LAX
in an hour.
In an hour. And I've literally done it. I opened for Michael Bublé once. You want to hear the story? Do we have time?
Yeah, let's hear the story.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
I had flown back. I had business here, and I flew back to Los Angeles. I was in Burbank. When you get off the plane in Burbank, you're actually outside. It's one of the few airports still like that.
They roll out the stairs.
Because they won't let them expand it, and it makes it a really cool airport. But the city won't let them expand because of the homeowners. So I'm not even in the terminal yet. My phone rings, and it's a producer promoter here. He goes, "Where are you?" I go, "I'm in Los Angeles." He goes, "I'm at the airport." He goes, "Go buy a ticket and immediately return." I said, "Well, I can't. It's dad-daughter day. My daughter was in 6th grade. It's a luncheon, and I got to go." He goes, "Go to lunch with your daughter. Come back and get on the plane." I go, "What am I doing?" And he goes, and he said, "The money." I go, "Okay, I'll be back." Then I said, "What am I doing?" And he goes, "Well, you're opening for Michael Bublé." So I go and I have lunch with my daughter, and then I drive back, park my car at Burbank, go back in, buy a ticket at the counter, and I fly in. Someone picks me up at the airport, takes me to the Orpheum. I briefly meet Michael Bublé, just make sure I'm not some weirdo, and wanders off. I'm down in this catacombs where all the acts are kept. Someone comes and gets me and goes, "You're on in 5." I go up to the theater. They announce me. I go out and I do 15 minutes. It goes great. Those shows can go well. I walk off. Someone hands me a check. I walk out the stage door, get in my car, get in a cab now. Go to Phoenix Sky Harbor, and I was home for the 11 o'clock news.
That's unbelievable.
And I'm going, did this really happen?
That's unbelievable.
It's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And you know what? And that's what's contributing to global warming. That they couldn't find some poor schmo in town. Mark Cordes was doing a corporate gig in Montana. I don't know what was happening. They couldn't get a good local guy.
Oh my God.
So all this jet fuel used.
That's all the comics'
Back
fault.
then, yeah.
Global warming. It's all the comics' fault.
For the guy that we using to replace Frank Sinatra. So that's what it was for.
It's a heck of a story. But it's really gotten true. Probably there's less and less of it if you think about the expansion of comedy in this market, though. That's one thing. We have just a stockpile of great talent, and actually you got to contact Tony if you would like to be talent like this, because this is the backbone of what you do now, is train folks to have the proper delivery, to get up there. Public speaking is a huge asset. A lot of folks don't have that ability, and you can give it. Why don't you talk about your school just a little bit while we got you captive?
Can I real quick? I want to say a lot of people know, and a lot of people don't know that Josh McDermott is now on The Walking Dead, and he started out in our workshop. And look, if you want to go into the entertainment business, sometimes a stand-up comedy workshop is one of the best places to start, because it encompasses so many of the disciplines you need to be a writer, an actor, a director, a comic. Where if you take an acting class, it's harder to be a stand-up comic. It's easier. There's a Steve Odenkirk started out as a stand-up comic. I just saw him on Fargo again last night. But we had a guy named John Waldron. I saw this in the New Times the other day. John Waldron just either wrote or produced his first film with Ricky Schroeder, and it got funded and released. And he started out in our workshops. Now I haven't talked to John in years. I haven't talked to John in 10 years. But I think it's so cool to see that. So yeah, we do have these comedy workshops, and people go, "Can you teach people to be funny?" And I go, "I don't have to. People are already funny. It's just about bringing out that part of your personality. How far you'll go, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about craft and technique, and you can learn." I have a well-known within his field public speaker who does private lessons with me because he wants to improve that portion of what he does. So if you want to check it out, if you're going, "Well, comedy class is this, or it's expensive," if you want to check it out, this Monday, April 21st at 7:30 p.m. at the Tempe Center for the Arts, we're having a free introductory workshop. And when we say free, we mean free. There's no hard sell. We lay out the entire program for you over a couple hours. And then if you like what you hear and like what you see, you can sign up for our paid workshops.
So you don't lock them in until they write you a check?
No,
okay.
They could, if you're there 15 minutes and you go, "This isn't for me," you can walk out.
You're not hostage.
Right.
Yeah, and then
that's a great approach to that.
I have had people say, "I want to take your workshop," and I go, "Come to my free intro," and I go, "No, I just want to give you money." And I go, I like money. I like when somebody said to me, "Well, what somebody said to me one time? They said, all you want is my money." I said, "That's not all I want. It is on the list." I says, by the
That's
way,
honest. That's fair.
I says, you want money too.
Right.
That's why you're talking to me.
That is very
And
true.
you're trying to shame me into giving you what I do for free so that you have the best possible deal.
Right.
So all you're doing is negotiating, and no. So I don't care, man. At this point in my life, I don't care. We're totally upfront about what we do. But I would rather someone come to my free intro before they write me a check. I don't want anybody to be in my workshop for 2 weeks and then say, hey, this isn't what I thought it was.
Right.
You know, and so this Monday, 7:30, Tempe Center for the Arts. You come down and check it out for free. It's a lot of fun, and we always like meeting new people. I said it to one time. I said, it's a pleasure to meet you. And they go, how do you know? I said, well, it's always a pleasure meeting people. We'll find out in the future if I like you.
Right. There you go.
The meeting part is pleasurable.
Contact information, though.
Oh, it's real simple. You can go to comedyschools.com. That's comedyschools.com.
The big voice guy. Nice. I like that.
comedyschools.com. Sign up now. Start your career today. Are you interested in stand-up comedy, lecturing, being a baseball player, killing people in your spare time? Go to comedyschools.com.
Sounds like an OxyClean commercial.
That is awesome.
Come on down. We're gonna and if you take the class, we're also gonna throw in the knives and the cleaner.
The Ginsu knife.
The Ginsu
Fabulous.
knives.
Separate shipping handling. Right?
Here's how the comedy class works, okay? You write some jokes, then we just put a dab of water on it, and the joke comes out clean. It comes out clean. And you get the knives. Or you can call 818-571-JOKE. That's 818-571-JOKE.
You're listening to Wild Jokers. That was Tony. Brad
Wow.
and I are going to be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And it's Orangutan Home Services, featuring heating, air conditioning, home security, plumbing, and much, much more. Call them today, 602-906-0111. Orangutan Home Services, 602-906-0111. Call us today. Autobahn Mortgage, 602-980-LOAN. That's 602-980-5626. Call Autobahn Mortgage for all your commercial and residential mortgage needs. We are friendly, fast, and efficient. 602-980-LOAN. You can also see us on the internet, www.autobahnmortgage.com. Call us today, 602-980-LOAN, 602-980-5626.
And welcome back to the Wild Jokers. What, Brad?
You knocked me out of my seat.
I
turn
do
my
that
headphones
every
down.
time we come back from break
You do
because
it on
that's what I
purpose.
do.
Hello.
I'm Len. He's Brad, and we're moving. We got to thank Tony once again.
Tony.
The godfather of
Tony.
comedy here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Did you
is what
kiss
I
his
call him.
ring before he left?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
And I said, if you do have more children, I hope they're masculine.
Okay.
I always do that to him. But
Okay.
he graced his presence. But one of his fine comics, that dear friend, that won the was the Cactus Jacks in Ahwatukee.
I don't know. She's damn funny. That's all I know.
Damn funny. Amy Blackwell. Amy, welcome to the Wild Jokers.
Hello.
How are you?
I am well. It's a beautiful day.
You're very animated.
I have an incredible artist that draws me every week.
Sweet.
And,
That's impressive. The anime thing's working
we've got
for
some CG people working on it constantly. So
you. People.
I love getting the backdrop when I speak to any comedian, actor, actress. What got you into it?
honestly, I just told this story last night. It's kind of a goofy story. I never had any grandiose idea that I was going to do comedy. I loved it. I'd stay up late and I'd watch, stand-up spotlight and different shows late at night, comics and just love it and everything. But I never thought I was going to be a comic. I was always cutting jokes and laughing, repeating jokes of other comics that I liked, and never thought about pursuing it as a career because I lived in Kingman. I mean, where's I going to go?
funny right there.
It is. I tell a lot of jokes about that.
I know you talk about living in Kingman, and I mean that right there is enough fodder for like a whole night's worth of jokes.
For 2 months, I did radio in Kingman. For two months, and it spit me out.
That's all you need.
You did a 2-month stint.
If you stay longer than 2 months, you live there for life.
I stayed
So
there
it's
at the
good that you
Travel
got
Lodge.
out.
No, I didn't even get property. They recruited me to do some afternoons there, and I was there at the truck stops in the evening.
Which station were you?
It was a country western station.
there more than
was
one
it
station?
KAAA?
No, it was Super Country.
Super Country. Okay.
Super Country.
Sorry to plug the wrong.
Yeah, I'm not going. Yeah,
I didn't even know there was more than one
it's
station.
one
up
of
there.
two
There's a few.
stations.
There's a
a
few.
couple
Oh,
now,
okay.
but
There's a lot of truck drivers go through there. They need something to listen to.
exactly. And don't hitchhike there because the golden rule. I mean, that's a dangerous thing. Also, Kingman's a kind of a dangerous town, and it's
It
Yeah.
is. There's a lot of meth.
There's
forward.
So
what got you out of Kingman?
What actually got me like into comedy though was
Okay.
it was I was at a bar, a local bar that I would go frequent, and this band was playing that I really liked, and in between they had a DJ playing, and they introduced the DJ as a comedian, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he must be the one they had just recently started doing like comedy on Thursday nights, and I was telling my friend like we got to go check that out. I love stand up. I went up and introduced myself to him because I thought he was cute.
Fair
And,
enough.
Other motives.
Yeah, totally other motives. And I was like, oh, so you're a comic? He's like, yeah. And I go, oh, I love comedy. I've always wanted to do it, which was a lie, but I was trying to just talk to the guy.
Nice.
And he goes, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And then he goes, do you have any material? And I was like, of course.
Oh,
that was, again, a lie.
Right.
And he was like, well, come back next week with 3 minutes of material and I'll audition you. And then if I like what I see, I'll put you up that night.
I've got to jump in, but the true foundation of a relationship is based on lies.
Yes. it
Very
is.
nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So.
And now they're married. Did you know that?
But I came back the next week and I auditioned for them and they liked it, put me up that night, and
That's cool.
And then,
so you just went home and just banged out 3 minutes worth of material to try to just get the deal done?
basically I was like, oh my gosh, what was I saying in Laughlin with my friends the other night that was making them laugh, and and I just wrote a bunch of stuff and did that, and then he was like, that was really good, I want you to come back next week with 5 minutes. So I didn't know how it worked, so I wrote a whole new 5 minutes.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know that you could just add 2 more minutes to that.
Sweet.
So I write a whole new 5 minutes. I come in
It's
the
a whole
next
new
week.
bit. Yep.
I do the next 5 minutes, and then he's like, okay, I want you to do 7 minutes
Oh, boy.
on the next show. So I write a whole new 7 minutes.
Nice.
And then I became a regular host and, guest spot, and I ended up co-producing the show with the guy for like several months to a year. And then I ended up moving up to Vegas in like 2001. Yeah, it was summer of 2001. So you can guess what was coming up in a couple months.
Yeah, it was
after
not
I got
good
there.
times.
Not
Yeah.
a good time in Vegas.
Right.
So I went back to Kingman. I stayed there for a couple months, and then I decided to up and move to another small town in Arizona, Sierra Vista. Yeah, I moved up in the world. I moved from one end of the state to the diagonal opposite end of the state.
That is true.
And I wasn't really even thinking about doing comedy, full time or anything like that. But I got offered a chance to run a show. They were like, "Oh, you do comedy? Can you put together a show?" And so I did, and I ended up running a show in Sierra Vista for 3 years.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
You know, I got to ask you. Len and I were talking before the show started.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the difference between male and female comedians, and how it seems like it's not only is it harder to be a woman comedian, but there seems like there's a lot less of them.
There's a lot less of them because and I think there's a few reasons. One, because it takes a certain kind of personality and ego to do this, and for the most part, it's a kind of a male-dominated field because of that ego. Men are more likely to be the funny ones in relationships, and because it is a
Guys are goofy.
Yeah,
guys
maybe.
are goofy.
I mean, I can
well,
speak
but
for
that's-
myself.
That's a good. If you look at the way men date, what women say, like, "Oh, I want a man with a sense of humor." That's a very important thing for a man to have. And so when he's funny, that impresses women,
Right.
and it does. And so if a woman is funnier than a man, it's almost intimidating. It's almost the same as if
That's a good way to
a
put it.
woman
Yeah,
were
I
to
didn't
make
think
more
about
money.
that. Yeah, well, I guess that makes sense.
It can be
yeah.
very intimidating.
Right.
And so, that's one reason. And another reason is like women have other priorities in life too. They're raising families. Like I had to stop doing comedy for about 5 years because my kids were too young for me to really go out and pursue it because
Right.
I was a single mom. So,
And that's a full-time job right there.
that's
right.
a full-time job. So being a single mom trying to work, and do comedy, it wasn't going to happen. So I put it on hold. And now my kids are teenagers and old enough to understand why, I'm out on the road for a couple of weeks at a time, or so I can actually pursue it. But that's one aspect of it is, if you're in a relationship, you've got to, it's a hard life. And for a woman to be out on the road and away from her family and her, responsibilities in that regard is a lot harder. Men can be a little bit more free with that, I think, and so it's hard for a woman to even take the step.
It's
To
interesting
do
because
comedy,
there's been
like female comics. I get this after shows a lot. Is like I don't really like female comics, but you were funny. I'm
that's,
like, well,
that's so insulting.
Well, I'm a woman, so
Right.
you do like female
Right.
comics.
That-
They are funny.
That's such an offhanded compliment.
It's a horrible.
Really.
It's so backhanded. Yeah.
It's like, hey, yeah, well, I don't really think women are funny, but you're pretty good.
But
Yeah,
then
it's
I'll
like,
ask
really?
them. I'll be like, "Well, do you like Ellen DeGeneres?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, she's funny."
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about Paula
Well, she's
Poundstone?
gay though.
Well,
They
she's
don't.
funny.
She's gay too. So maybe they don't consider her women. They
It
don't
kills
consider
me
women.
though. I'm like,
I don't
how about
know.
Roseanne Barr? are, or,
They're-
and
yeah,
they'll be
well,
like, yeah,
she's
they're
straight,
funny, they're
so,
funny,
right.
but the rest of them are bad. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
okay, well, how about Pauly Shore? You think he's funny? Well, no. Okay, how about how
start
about Dane
making
Cook? No,
yeah.
that guy sucks.
Right.
Okay, so but do you think Bill Cosby's funny? Oh yeah, he's funny.
Right.
Okay, so not all men are funny either.
It's
Dingleberry.
the same kind of thing.
Dingleberry.
You're listening to Wild Jokers. We're hanging out with Amy Blackwell, who was our big winner of the Wild Joker Comedy Night. Let me ask Amy this one on a ratio. Do you think in the comic world right now, we were saying at the beginning of the show, at the top of the hour, the ratio, do you think it's about a 2-to-1 ratio men to women in the comedy scene right now?
I wouldn't even give it 2-to-1. I would say that there's probably, for every one female comic, there's probably 5 male comics.
Wow, that's a
in
big
all
number.
honesty.
That's
'Cause, I mean,
a huge gap.
You go to shows all the time, and how many times have you guys been on shows where there's not even one woman on the show, and there's 5-6 comics?
We've
That's
been
true.
lucky
So-
with the Joker nights that we've been doing. We at least, I would say, for every 6 we have one to the 6.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
about
I'd say
right.
one of
That's
6.
good.
Yeah, I think we've only really had one show that we didn't have a female comic.
We've got
Yeah.
some really good female talent here in the Valley, which is great because I'm, like Kirsten Alberts is one of my favorites. She's a friend of mine, and I love writing with her, and I love seeing what she's doing with her comedy. And she's young and attractive, and I hate her. But no, she's great. Jill Bryan is out there working it. And so there's some really great female comics in the Valley, and just like some really great men that are out there working it and doing really well. There's just as there's for every one good comic though, there's 10 not so good.
Well, yeah.
too.
I mean, there's a
So-
lot of folks who try and go out there.
Yeah.
They just don't have the delivery or the mechanics aren't there. Just something is just not resonating.
Yeah,
and
and
it happens.
Going to happen, and sometimes people, it's like, oh, it's a hobby, or it's I want to check this off my bucket list, or
Right, yeah.
or whatever, and whatever reason you're getting into it, except for to make money, because that is
That seems to be the last option on
that
the
is
list.
definitely the last
Right.
option.
It's more for the love of it. It seems like
it should be.
Well, that seems like the people that are the best. That's that's where you get the best from.
Yeah, for me, I do comedy because I have to do it.
Is it like a
It's-
release?
For
is where
me,
you're going?
it's where I feel home.
That's cool.
A comfort zone.
It's my I get on stage, I have a microphone, the lights will hit me, and I'm like, oh, good, I'm home.
But
So
Right.
speaking of home, so what
Well-
about Facebook? Are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook.
How do we find you on there?
Well, you can go to my website. It's amyblackwellcomedy.com.
That's easy.
That is easy. Just add comedy to that. Otherwise, you end up on a weird artist's website that draws
That's
pictures
not
of foxes.
you.
More porn.
Yeah. No, it's just pictures of cartoon foxes, and I'm not about that.
Right.
I'm not about that. But amyblackwellcomedy.com. You can link to my Facebook, my Twitter, I think Pinterest, Instagram, I don't know, all that crap.
All of it.
All of it.
All of
Very nice.
that. So
Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining us here on
Thanks for
Wild
having
Jokers.
me.
As I said,
That was awesome.
we appreciate you going out there and kicking butt and doing our Wild Joker nights, and I'm sure we'll have you take part in more shows in the future.
Make sure you check out her
Absolutely.
website, guys. She's really funny. You're listening to The Wild Jokers on 24/7 Comedy for Phoenix, 1260 AM, 96.1 FM. All right, so we're here today with our wonderful realtor friend, Merle Anderson. How you doing, Merle?
I am wonderful, you guys.
You're definitely more perked up today than last time. He had his Wheaties this
Why
morning.
is that?
Stuck my finger in a light socket.
There you go. Fair enough. So, Merle, I understand you got a couple of listings that you brought on the market here. Why don't you give us some locations and tell us a little bit about these bad boys?
Well, the first one I have is in Mesa, and that is at 904 North Seaton, and that's Seton. That one is at 2,050 square feet.
Okay.
And we've got it listed for $267,000, and that's in Mesa at the Alta Mesa Country Club area.
Nice. How many bedrooms and baths is that one?
3 bedrooms, 3 baths.
Ooh.
I know.
That's a
2-story.
bonus bathroom. Normally, you don't have 3 baths in those.
No,
That's cool.
2-story, 3-car garage, huge backyard, swimming pool.
Wow.
And, for you, Lynn, I know you like to jump up and down on things, so it's got a trampoline.
He knows you too well, man.
Yes, I do like to jump up and down. But the Alta Mesa community also is a great family community.
It is. Plus, for me, it's all about the golf course. So.
Right, there you go. All right, and then you have one for us in Scottsdale, too. Tell us about that one.
I do. I have one in South Scottsdale. That is at 4038 North 81st Street. It's about 1,960 square feet. another 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1.5-car garage. It's on the corner of Indian School and 81st, and it's fully remodeled. It's clean and ready to go for the next buyer.
Great location, just in the center of everything, right off Indian School there. So you're just shooting distance to Old Town.
It is. It's
near
right,
the 101. Yeah, you're near everything.
it's halfway between Old Town and the 101, right there off of Hayden and Indian School.
That's very desirable.
That's perfect. Yeah, it's
Very
really
desirable.
cool. So we got 2 listings coming up here for Merle. Actually, they are listed right now. The first one in Mesa at 904 North Seaton, and the second one in Scottsdale at 4038 North 81st Street in Scottsdale. And Merle, if anybody wants to take a look at these houses, how should they get a hold of you?
Just give me a call at 480-235-7653.
Very good. Thank you so much, Merle. We appreciate your time and look forward to helping you get those sold.
And welcome back to Wild Jokers Radio. I'm Len, he's Brad, and we were talking about our innovative comedy and radio mixed together. There's been so many talents that have come through the years, and one that actually impacted me as a child growing up in Los Angeles, California, through the years, my teenage years in the 80s, was Mr. Shadoe Stevens, who was actually the program director of a radio station that changed radio in Los Angeles and throughout the country as far as I see it. He was a program director and a personality, a great voice. Currently, he's actually the MC, the voice of the Craig Ferguson show.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, actually.
And so this is quite an honor. Mr. Shadoe Stevens, welcome to Wild Jokers Radio. How are you today?
Thank you so much. Please, sit down. Please. Oh, that's too much. I'll get a big head. Oh, that's enough. Please, stop.
How are things been going? How is your current gig working with Craig Ferguson? It's a great show. I watch it all the time. I'm a late night guy. There's been a lot going on in the late night world as it is, but how is it?
It's like Pee Wee Herman on acid.
That's cool.
Well,
He's remarkably intelligent, educated, well-read, really smart, and just spontaneously funny. It's just, even when you're just sitting around with him talking about anything, stuff comes up and you think, I should write that down. You know, that's so well said. I have to write things out to be that eloquent.
What you're actually seeing is really who he is.
Well, the quirky character he's not really like that at all.
Oh, okay.
He's much more serious, but he's really funny in his seriousness. He's a very, very bright guy, and one of the best interviewers around. You know, he's the only guy I know of who doesn't work from notes at all. As you know, he tears them up.
Yeah, every show he tears up the blue card, which I think is hilarious.
He just remembers.
That's amazing.
He remembers everything that they talked about and what they want to talk to the guest about, and then just trusts that it'll go that way.
That's amazing.
And that is really a true talent in itself. Now let's rewind. Just this is your life, Shadoe. I mean, that's what I'm kind of going here. But going back to the 70s, I won't go as far back. You do have history here at University of Arizona. I was reading in your journalism background, which is really kind of cool to let folks know. But when you went from KMET to the K-Rock period of time, the transition radio, one thing I started back in that day, and you were still working in Los Angeles in radio, and that's when I kind of was in the promotion department, as a kid. But how in your observation from the creative side has radio changed? Has it, in your mind, because I have my own opinion on this, how do you think the market of radio is nowadays from the glory days of the 70s and 80s? Where do we stand?
They took the competition out. When giant corporations own radio stations and it's not in their interest for them to compete, things don't get better. Everything's economies of scale. Like, how can we do everything we're doing and keep it good with fewer people and less money? That's the entire agenda.
So it's all about the economy now, is what you're saying?
No, it is the nature of corporate America. When corporate America owns, two companies own almost every station in a major market. Those stations normally, in the old days, would compete with each other. So they had to be innovative. They had to be clever. They had to do great contests. They had to be involved with the public. Mm-hmm. They had to make it more interesting and exciting than the other guy. And today they don't do that. Today they're oftentimes being programmed. One guy is programming 4 or 5 stations. And they don't take any chances. They don't do innovative programming. They think that if you put on something that is, out of the format, on the weekend, say, that someone will show up and listen on a Saturday or a Sunday and hear something different and never come back ever again in their life. That's the fear of corporate radio. We don't take any chances. We don't do anything unusual. You go out and make a success story, and we'll beat a path to your door and pay you too much. We're not going to do it for you. We're not going to take any chances or experiment. So everything is vanilla.
And that's boring. And once again, you're listening to the Wild Jokers. We're joined by Mr. Shadoe Stevens, talking comedy, radio, and whatever we want. That's the one thing that was very unique when you took the helm as program director of K-Rock. And I love to talk about the world-famous K-Rock, because that was just a barn burner, because it was not like anything else. It's exactly how vanilla we are now. K-Rock was not vanilla whatsoever when you were there.
K-Rock came as a result of the success I had at KRLA, which is an AM station. And when they made me program director there, we initiated something that nobody had ever done before, which was an album rock format on AM. And it became wildly successful. It became #1 station in town. And on the heels of that, a guy named Gary Bacasta was putting together K-Rock. He had a little K-Rock AM that almost no one could hear, and it was a terrible little top 40 station. And he hired me to go there. And he said, when we go FM, we'll make you program director, and I want you to do something really interesting. So I went over there, and there's a long story. This should be either a documentary or a movie or a novel, because it's, I could tell you stories that would go on for the next hour.
That'd be great. I'd love to keep you.
I'll give you one little hint. Gary Bacasta was Sicilian. Okay.
Okay.
All
Gotcha.
right, enough said.
He was a charismatic. He was almost like Dracula.
Oh.
His hair slicked straight back, kind of charismatic, looked right through you, never blinked, and would just say, "Oh, well, we'll take care of that." And you believed him. You go, okay, so we had 13 partners, and then the 13 partners went through a ton of money with a little AM station, and then half the partners revolted and did a hostile takeover and threw him out. And then he retaliated, and the other partners got together and threw out the partners who had done the coup, and fired the whole staff, and said, and within weeks we had the FM station, but not before I was walked to the car every day by a 6'6" highway patrolman with a shotgun, because there were vague threats of retaliation. Anyway, the stories go on and on and on with K-Rock, and I had I launched K-Rock, and it took off like a rocket, and we weren't being paid. He couldn't pay us. He couldn't bring in money, and we were all going bankrupt. So I quit, and at the height of its success, and when I quit, the whole staff quit, and the station went off the air for a year and a half. And that's when I went to KMET and did the same thing at KMET in a year. We became wildly successful. A slightly different format. It was a real album rock format. K-Rock had always been cutting edge alternative.
Mm-hmm.
It was all up, all cutting edge music all the time. We will discover the new music from all over the world, especially from Europe and the UK, and we will play it in heavy rotation, while at the same time offering this huge catalog of rock music as its backup. And it was terrific radio.
It really was. It was a
really
free spirit. Free spirit radio, as I like to call it, because you had a little bit of everything, but also that genre which you brought together with K-Rock was so, the new wave, the British invasion. You had just so many different things that were going on, and it was just such a collectively artistic period of time.
Yeah, it was very exciting, and the all of the things that make radio theatrical. We spent a lot of time in the production studio, which has always been one of my favorite things to do. Until I created original jingles and original programming, audio programming concepts that included, saying the name of the station through a filtered voice, and then slowing it down. It was like, what? Or speeding up the voice, and everybody was talking real fast. I'm a program director of K-Rock, and some of those promos are hilarious. And I also experimented with 3D radio, which nobody has still done, which I don't understand. The space between speakers is never used. And what we did is have programming, promos, that things spun between the speakers. They moved left and right and up and down and faster and forward, and and really made it kind of psychedelic, really interesting and funny.
And that's the thing. And then you moved on forward from K-Rock, which to me, the last final piece, and we'll cut you loose, but we just wanted to have a snippet of how you changed the radio world as far as I saw with that station. But the Federated commercials, there was some stores, I believe, out here in Arizona, because I've chatted with some folks that I was going to be chatting with you today, and they remember the shops out here. But the concept and the writing of those commercials was nothing like you ever saw at that period of time. And I thought it was like Monty Python on steroids to me.
No, thank you. That was exactly what we were going for. And in fact, it was done the same way. And Monty Python was that little team of guys who did everything. I had a little team, 6 guys. And I had my own studio, my own post-production studio, my own cameras, lighting, everything. And we would meet on Monday, and people would throw out ideas. Well, let's see, how about Rabid Frog Bonanza Days? Rabid Frogs ate our warehouse, and we're passing the savings along to you. That's a great idea. I'll get the frogs. We set up a shoot, and by Wednesday we were shooting, and Thursday we were editing, and Friday we turn them in. We do 6 to 8 commercials a week, and no commercial ever ran longer than 10 days.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Well, real quick, thank you so much for your time, Shadoe. We really do appreciate it here on Wild Jokers Radio as a part of our tribute to the comedy radio and just the creative aspect of this period of time in pop culture. But current projects you're doing, I know you have a ton of things you're doing. You're still going 8 million miles an hour with some of your personal projects. I also have, I'm a friend of yours on my Facebook, so I see a lot of the different things you're promoting currently.
Well, thank you. I spent 2 years doing one of my most innovative things, I think, is mentalradio.net. And all that stuff is still up there. There's hundreds of hours of programming and features and jingles, all of which I wrote and produced and did in my own studio at my place, and really loved it, and left it because my partner ended up being somebody I couldn't trust, and he was kind of a old alcoholic. And so that fell apart. But on the heels of that, I created Blackout Television, which is one of my favorite things ever. And that's an all-black cast. And if you like comedy, these guys are the funniest people I've met in 20 years. Every single time I watch, they do a live show at the Groundling Theater in Hollywood.
Oh, great.
I've seen it 16 times. And every single time I've laughed until I hurt. And,
That's great.
We developed Blackout Television as a radio theater podcast. And the podcasts are all available at blackouttelevision.com. There's an iPad, iPhone app, and an Android app. If you just search Blackout Television. And all these 48 shows that we've done will all download onto your phone or onto your computer, and you can listen to them, when you're in the car or whatever. They're really fun. And we've taken that, we did that specifically. There's a concept that I came up with, which is a parody of a black entertainment network like BET. And we have different shows. We have a morning show. So parody of Good Morning America is Morning Blackout. Okay. Morning show for black people who try to get up in the morning. We have a parody of The View called As Black Men. Black men talking about current events. We have a parody of Judge Judy called Lady Justice. And that's hilarious. And then we have a parody of The Tonight Show called Black of the Night.
Oh, God. That's unbelievable.
That's a good one.
That's unbelievable.
I love that.
And that we just pitched that 2 weeks ago to BET, and we're supposed to know by the end of this week if they're interested in doing a deal for a television series.
That would be, and anything you need. If they ever come out to Phoenix, Arizona, since we are the 24/7 comedy radio affiliate out here, anything we can do as the Wild Jokers, we'd love to help you out and promote this project, because I think more people need to laugh out here, and that's one thing that's fun doing what we do is entertainers and entertainment. You get to have folks kind of divert from the doldrums of day-to-day life.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the offer, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate the appreciation.
And we appreciate
your appreciation.
And I love Arizona. At the time I lived there, I didn't know that I would ever leave. The only place I ever wanted to go was California, and that's where I ended up. But first I went to Boston, which at the time was traumatic for me. It was cold and and harsh.
Yeah.
And it took many years before I could go back there and really appreciate it for how cool it is. But Arizona, I love Tucson. I've been back to Tucson a couple of times, and I have friends in Phoenix. It's a great place to live.
Absolutely. And if you're ever around, we'd love to have you back on the show. And anything you need from us, especially with your project and stuff, we'd be more than happy to promote. And so reach out to us. Don't be a stranger. But thank you so much, Mr. Shadoe Stevens, for being part of our tribute to classic innovators of radio.
I appreciate all of it.
All right,
have a
sir.
great day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you so much for your time. Mr. Shadoe Stevens on Wild Jokers Radio. And it's that time once again for Brad to beat the street. Brad, start beating it.
So check this out. Lincoln, Nebraska.
The Heartland.
The Heartland.
Yes.
So you know those claw machines, that like are the biggest scam ever. The ones that you can like the little crane thing goes and it grabs a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you know that those things can be doctored with to make the pressure of the claw
I saw
heavier or lighter.
and you like if you're like in a Denny's, they have them
Yeah,
where you
right.
can
My
grab
son
toys.
is the master. He's gotten 7 in a row out of one of those things.
I saw a kid get his arm stuck in one trying to grab a toy.
This is better. How about a kid stuck in one? Okay.
How did the kid get in it?
Well,
is my
they're not
question.
quite sure. That's the funny part. Anyway, so there's kids sitting inside the claw machine. There's a picture in this article with the kid in the claw machine sitting on top of the stuffed animals.
Would you put a quarter in and get the claw going on its head? I'd be trying to grab the kid and drop it in the
It
little
would be
dale.
kind of funny.
That would be kind of fun.
But anyway, it was this lady's 3-year-old son.
Three.
And, yeah, right. 3-year-old son. Anyway, he was missing from the apartment, and he went to the bowling alley across the street. This is getting shady as it is. And evidently, he climbed his way in to the claw machine.
Did the kid have a cigar? He's at the bowling alley hanging out. It sounds
No,
like
but you know what's funny?
Type of
They didn't
person.
even give his mom a ticket for anything, like child
Really?
abuse, abandonment, nothing.
Now, I don't have any children that I know of, Brad.
We know this.
Yes. So my question to you as a parent would this be a neglect issue, perhaps?
I would think
or
so.
What do you think?
I don't know.
in your-
When your kid's inside the claw machine playing with stuffed animals, I think he got some big
I think. Well,
problems.
here's my argument to you. I think he's plenty safe. He's stuck in the claw machine. Where is he going to go?
Well, what if he tries to get out and he
I don't think he.
himself
I
or
don't think he
something?
could get out. But there's
well,
air holes.
He could try to dive through the chute that he came in.
Well, that's the thing. I think he went through that little. That must be a rather skinny child.
I don't know. All I know
3
is
years
that
old.
3
okay.
years old, and he squoze his way in. And they say he wasn't hurt, just so you know.
Well, that's fantastic, but I know those machines. I've seen kids with their arms stuck. So think about it. If your arm gets stuck, how in tarnations are you going to get your whole 3-year-old body in there? That is a mystery.
He's obviously a real little dude.
Well, the reason is with all
think
this
about it,
neglect-
some of those little stuffed animals, they're not so little.
Well,
you know,
obviously
so.
he's not getting good home cooked meals. He's hanging out at the bowling alley all the time. Obviously, he should come home for dinner once in a while.
Yeah,
I
right.
think that's neglect.
Yeah,
What
it
else
could
do you
be.
have?
Okay, so this lady, we always
I
have
just laugh when you crack up at your
Sorry.
own stories.
Well, it's funny because it's like we always hear these TSA stories,
Right.
and it's always making the TSA look dumb or whatever.
Well, because hold on. With the TSA, I just go and I demand them to pat me down to get a little extra attention.
Well, that's only if it's a chick TSA.
Well, of course,
right?
yeah. The female.
That's another story.
Well, especially when they put the rubber glove on and do the full body cavity search, it really is cleansing.
Well, this lady should have had the full enchilada search.
What, the taco?
Yeah, she actually made some enchiladas and somehow.
Oh,
and, wait,
I was going different
Yeah, I
routes,
know
sorry.
what you were going for. Yeah, this is a family show.
Anyway,
this lady makes I know you love it. This lady makes these enchiladas evidently, and she was bringing them on the plane, which I'm surprised she even got them on the plane because you're not supposed to bring your own prepared food. But whatever. Inside one of her enchiladas, an 8.5-inch knife.
wow.
Right.
Well,
And she claims she had no clue the knife was in there.
Boy, when you take a bite of that enchilada, you're going to hurt yourself. I'll
Well,
tell you that.
yeah.
Well, that's another thing. You're not supposed to take food. Why would you put the dagger in the enchilada when you're going on an aircraft? This is a totally stupid individual.
Well, you know what's funny is that all she does is face a fine. There's no criminal.
Really?
I know. Can you believe that?
For a weapon.
You would think an 8.5-inch knife sneaking it through TSA, that would be some kind of federal offense.
You
Evidently,
think
it's
with
not
a
that
knife
big a deal.
but what is the
Maybe you have to bring a samurai sword to get an offense of some
so
sort.
you can't bring like a hot pocket on board.
No.
You can't.
You can't bring any of your own. No, you're supposed to actually buy food after the security. At the $8,000 hamburger.
Exactly,
joints.
it's the
Right.
biggest scheme in the
scandal.
world.
Right.
It's
scandalous.
horrible. It's like going
scandalous.
to Disneyland where you have a meal that's $35 for one plate. It's horrible, and I love Disneyland. Don't get me wrong, folks, but it is rather pricey. What else do you have for us?
Okay, so these days they make all kinds of wines in boxes. You know, the box of
They've done
wine
it for years.
it isn't what it used to be.
Were you a Bartles and James guy?
Oh my God, dude.
Did you like Bartles and James?
I didn't like it, but I've had it. Chicks used to love it. That was the best thing to get a
hold
girl
on,
drunk on was Bartles and James.
I see you in your sports car and your aviators like
No.
you are. I see you as a California cooler guy.
No.
Were you, or Zima?
To be
Zima?
honest, no. Ugh.
Perhaps Zima?
No. I was always like, I used to drink like Screwdriver, vodka, and orange juice. That was my drink.
That's a morning drink, by the way. You would have that in the evening.
That's more of a Bloody Mary's more of a morning drink.
No,
to
a
me.
Screwdriver.
No, I like the Screwdriver.
A tequila sunrise. That's a morning cocktail.
Maybe.
That's
I don't
a
know.
morning or brunch.
I'd say a mimosa or
That's
Bloody
that's
Mary
a
is
brunch
more common. It's
cocktail.
more common brunch.
But no, a screwdriver is
Yeah.
considered in
No,
the morning
I don't
category.
agree. I don't agree with you.
Just
Just because it's got fruit juice in it, I don't agree. With you.
I don't see. You know what?
Yeah.
When I see folks at the country club, even though I'm not a member,
Right.
But I do wear a members only jacket.
That's a whole nother story.
But I was always trained as a former bartender that is a morning drink.
Nah, I don't agree with you because I know a lot of old people that drink them all the time.
But that's old people. They're out of it.
Well, they're the country club crowd.
Really?
Nobody joins country clubs anymore.
Why don't you just drink a nice scotch and just call it a day?
I do that now.
Okay.
You asked me what I did before.
I know,
I'm
but
talking about in high school.
I'm talking
You're
about your
talking
Zima
Bartles and
habit.
James. I never drink a Zima. Those
You're
are gross,
totally a
dude.
Zima guy.
Ugh.
What is your problem?
Nah, try
all right,
again.
well, talk about the story.
So anyway, this 35-year-old lady decides she wants to steal 2 boxes of wine, and she goes into the store with no pants on.
How do you stash and steal wine when you're not wearing any pants?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. First of all, you're grabbing a box of wine.
Was she wearing a dress or a skirt?
It
or?
just says that she was wearing no pants.
So
and
what-
it was on video. And
Did she have a G-string or panties or anything on?
it basically says no pants.
No pants.
No pants. 35 years old on video. And yeah, she's a pretty scary looking lady. Actually.
If she was wearing a trench coat, I'd maybe get it.
Well,
but
that's the funny part is she wasn't wearing a trench coat. I think she was just wearing a shirt, and she tried to steal 2 boxes. How
so
do
she
you
was
walk
just,
out of a
she was
store
just
with 2
holding
boxes?
boxes of wine and just running
Now,
out.
I saw a TV show last week where a lady stole a computer monitor, and it was a big, huge lady, and she put it up her dress, and she pinched her legs together and waddled out of the store.
No, I mean, if you're going to be
That
a
was
thief,
impressive.
my suggestion to women, wear a muumuu.
Something. Well, that's what this lady was wearing. Was
wear
a
something
muumuu,
more
and
like
she
a
put
tent,
one of
yeah.
those flat screens up her skirt and waddled
A
out of
flat
the store.
screen?
A flat screen.
How big?
Like a 20-something inch, like a smaller one, not a real big one.
20-incher?
Something like that.
Okay.
Oh, this is back to being a family show. Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so here's one last one I gotta throw in there because this is just too good. So you know how all these Amish shows now, Amish Mafia and all this are getting real popular?
Yeah. The Amish and Quakers were different, right? Because I'm
yes.
thinking about oatmeal.
Right. No,
it is a morning show.
Completely different. Completely
Okay.
different. So anyway, this male police officer decides to dress in drag as an Amish woman.
Did he have facial hair, or did he look like a dude dressed as a woman?
No, actually, it looks like a chick. It's kind of a heavier set guy,
Really?
with no facial hair, and really he looks like a chick. And the whole idea was they were trying to catch some Amish guy that was exposing himself to children.
Ah, okay.
So it was kind of like a.
he was a. They were trying to find an Amish flasher, huh?
It was an
An Amish
Amish
flasher. You don't hear
Amish
that one
flasher.
every day.
No,
That's actually kind of funny thinking about an
So,
Amish. What is
yeah.
the difference between a Quaker and an Amishman?
Well, Quakers, I think, originally came here as like for kind of like the Pilgrims for religious freedom, and the Amish just lived back in like the 2,000 years ago times. Completely different. One's religious based. I think. Well, they're both kind of religious based, but the Amish is more of a, I guess they consider themselves like a certain type of Christian. I guess.
That is the Wild
Right.
Jokers history lesson for
Yeah.
the show.
Don't
boys and
quote
girls.
me because I'm definitely not the right guy.
But that is quite funny because I just got the Quaker Oats guy, and then we're talking about Amish stuff and pastimes. I just was kind of bleeding them together. I'm sorry, folks.
Well, the funny thing is that this Amish crossdresser.
You just said Amish like 4
The
times.
Amish cross-dresser cop was working with a female officer to try to nab this guy. And evidently they wanted some of the kids to testify in court. So this is kind of a big mess, it sounds like.
It really does sound like
Yeah.
it.
So, yeah, but that's something you don't hear of every day, a cop dressing up as an Amish woman. And it was a man. Why didn't they have a woman dressing up as an Amish woman? I mean,
woman.
really? That's just a little strange.
It just seems a little unusual. Would you, if you were part of the law enforcement for the betterment of the Amish society, would you do the same thing?
Probably not. The Amish have their own police anyway, so I don't know.
They
why
have the
don't.
Amish police?
Well,
Really?
I mean, they have their own. They do. I mean, they have. They don't. let me put it to you like this.
They have the
deal
Amish
with, they
police,
deal with
really?
their own issues internally. They very rarely call
they don't
the
have
English police, as they call them.
Okay, this is just confusing.
No, I'm
losing.
serious.
No, I did not. Do you have squad cars? The Amish police?
No. It's not like
Oh,
that.
they pull up on a buggy and a horse type deal.
Buggy and a horse.
But
yeah.
they have badges?
They don't have sirens or anything like that. Woo!
No,
none
none of them?
None of that.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm just so in the dark about these folks. I mean,
Yeah, well, they
I'm
are
a
too
West
because they
Coast
don't use
guy.
electric. So
Okay,
yeah,
well,
so
I'm-
they're in the dark too.
obviously
so
I'm
you're
with 'em.
even. Yeah,
we're a lot alike.
that's pretty bad.
Is that it?
I guess.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
that was Brad's beat on the street, and we have so many people to thank. Once again, Mr. Shadoe Stevens for joining the show here on Wild Jokers. Amy Blackwell, our winner of Cactus Jack. So
Tony, the Comedy School King.
Yes.
From
well,
ComedySchools.com.
The Godfather.
The
as I like
Godfather.
to call him.
Right.
And a special thank you, of course, to Orangutan Home Services, which is our heritage sponsor. They're the reason we're doing what we're doing. And welcome to the family once again at Casa Grande Jewelry and Pawn as a new partner to the show. Shout out, of course, to Cactus Jack's, to the What the Hell Bar and Grill.
And if you want to see Amy Blackwell compete this week at Hogs and Horses, which is 6705 East Cave Creek Road, Wild Bill's Comedy Roundup. It's the finals on Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Yeehaw!
Go check her out. She's super duper duper funny. Go support her. Help her win. And that's about all I got for now.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, something
all
like
right, I had
that.
to do that again. Well, have a fantastic weekend. Brad, thank you so much for all that you do. And I got to give a shout out to the lovely Michelle, my girlfriend. It's her birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, my love. We're going to have a great weekend. You have a great weekend. Thank you so much for listening to this week's edition of Wild Jokers. Hopefully you'll have a great weekend. And more info to come on next week's show. We're actually working on Tommy Davidson will be on next week's Wild Jokers. And perhaps Mr. Dave Pratt.
And make sure you check out our website, thewildjokers.com, or you can see us on Facebook at facebook.com, Wild Jokers Radio.
Have a great weekend, and thanks again for listening to Wild Jokers.